The story starts with a young boy named Oliver. On the way to the magic school, a magic flower tried to seduce him. After that, Katie was scared, but Guy said the plants just talk nonsense. Then Guy learned she loves all magical creatures. Suddenly Michelle lectured Pete, because he almost stamped on a plant. After that, everyone were impressed to see a real samurai girl. Oliver dreamed to fight with her, and he felt something in his heart by seeing the beautiful girl smile. Later, the new students saw the parade of magical fauna. Then Guy saw a huge dragon and Oliver explained him, "It's a rare Fafnir dragon." Meanwhile, Katie made a sad face because she couldn't stand to see a troll walking through the parade. The reason for this was because she believed in treating trolls like humans. Then a student cast a spell on Katie. She started running towards the magical beast, and said her feet were moving on their own. Then Michelle asked what was going on, and she saw that Katie was walking towards a huge troll. However, the giant troll attacked 2 magic wolves, and Oliver didn't manage to save Katie in time. When the spell wore off Katie, she lay in front of the giant troll ready to crush Katie with his huge fist. In the last moment, Nanau appeared, who stopped the troll with her voice. She asked if Katie is able to run, but her leg was injured. Then Oliver and the other students decided to help the samurai girl. Michelle cast a spell to attract the monster's attention, but her plan failed. So Oliver realized they were too weak and told them to combine their spells. Then he told them to use their strongest wind spell, and they trust Oliver and began to launch their attacks. Oliver waited a short moment, and he cast another spell to combine with their wind spells. As a result, he created a dragon voice, which distracted the monster for a short moment. Oliver told Nanau to run, but she rushed towards the monster and launched in sword attack. Nanau was able to knock out the giant troll with a single attack, and she saved Katie in time. After the fight, she thanked Oliver and the other students for helping her in the fight. Later, Guy wondered that they ended up separated. Oliver talked to Nanau and he was surprised, because she didn't have a plan in mind when she stood in front of that troll. Then he recalled the moment when her hair color changed, and he believed she possessed great potential as a mage. After that, the headmistress appeared in the hall, and she was able to cast the Thunder Breath first form spell. Arrived in the hall, Esmeralda apologized that the troll went out of control. Then she welcomed all the new students to Kimberly Magic School. In addition, she told the student that the school life will be hard, and their life and death are in their own hands. Suddenly, Nanau recommended that the headmistress needs to use circular rubbing to relieve her headaches. Then Oliver asked Nanau if she is stupid, and everyone were laughing. Following, Headmistress Esmeralda told them they will soon start the welcome banquet. Suddenly, all students were flying, and they were all teleported to another room. After landing on the ground, the older students greeted the new freshmen. They told them the headmistress looks scary, but she is a kind person. After that, Guy and Michelle were happy to see Oliver again, and they were waiting for Katie. She was teleported too, and they all were reunited. However, Michelle started to introduce herself and said she is a noble of the McDonald's family. Then she told Guy her curls is a symbol of her family. Second, Katie introduced herself and she said she liked magical fauna and all kinds of animals. Following this, Guy introduced himself and said he is a farmer boy, and if they want some veggies, they can ask him every time to get delicious veggies of his hometown. The next was Pete, and his parents are non-magical, and said he had no plans to make friends here. Oliver was interested in Pete's book and managed to befriend with Pete, which made him a little embarrassed. After that, Oliver said he is just an ordinary student, and he hoped to get along with everyone here. Followed, Nanau introduced herself as a samurai girl. In addition, she told them she was about to be killed in a war, but a passing mage saved her, and she was invited to the magical school. Then Nanau learned Michelle's father was the person who saved her. Pete learned that Nanau received a special recommendation to the Kimberly school, and he was jealous. Following this, Nanau decided to eat a huge plate roast beef, and Oliver offered to make her a plate. So Oliver made her a plate, and Nanau felt like a princess. Suddenly, Katie and Guy asked him to make a plate too. Then Oliver told Pete to eat some vegetables, and Guy teased him a little bit. On the followed morning, Oliver woke up and he saw some clock knocks who played him a prank. Then he hoped Pete could sleep well, and he didn't want his new friend catch a cold. Afterwards, Oliver went outside and he heard a voice who greeted him in the morning. She told him his brother sent her to protect Oliver out of the shadow. Later, he saw the scarves of Nanau and her naked body. He was flustered and cast a spell to create a smokescreen. He said she can't bath here, and Nanau replied she's just purifying herself. Following this, Nanau thought he is disgusted by seeing all her scarves on her body. Oliver wasn't disgusted, and he was enchanted at the sight of her beauty. So Oliver got a crush on Nanau, but he also smelled on her the faint scent of blood. Later, the girls were together and they were waiting for Oliver and Pete. Guy almost overslept and said the clock knocks played on him a prank. Then, Nanao was wearing the school uniform and she felt like a real mage. After that, Guy asked Oliver if his robe is kind of damp. Suddenly Pete said they should hurry up to eat breakfast. Then we see Pete answering a question from the teacher and the other students were looking down on him for being an ordinary. Pete said the sword art are techniques performed using the athames. Also the use of Thames was invented 400 years ago by a strong mage. Since then, they use the magic swords to cast spells instead of normal wands. Followed the teacher asked if someone is ready for a duel with another student, and Nanao volunteered. Suddenly an arrogant boy named Andrew volunteered to fight against Nanao. Oliver understood he just wants to show off that he's tougher than Nanao, because she lacks of sword arts experience. So Oliver asked to fight against Nanao too, but Andrew didn't like Oliver's attitude and made a fuss. Suddenly, Michelle challenged Andrew, and she said it will be much more impressed if Andrew can defeat her. Following this, the teacher cast an anti-lethality spell on their swords, which avoids injuries. Then they raised their swords, and Oliver didn't want to use magic, but he sensed he can't afford to hold back against her. Oliver realized how dangerous she is, and used a spell to get a chance to attack. But Nanao was an expert on sword fighting, and he tried to dodge the attacks. Nanao and Oliver there both equal, and their blades crossed each other. Nobody was able to getting the upper hand, and Oliver sensed her dangerous aura of a samurai. Suddenly Nanao started to cry, because she was very happy. Oliver understood her feelings and they decided to went all out in the fight. Suddenly the teacher stopped them both in the duel, because they managed to broke the anti-lethality spell. Nanao was sad about the unsatisfied end, and Michelle asked Andrew if he was able to withstand the strong attacks of Nanao. Later, Nanao said she had never experienced such a fulfilling duel, but she regret that they were unable to finish the duel. Suddenly Oliver said he never will fight with her again, because he didn't want a duel with a goal to kill each other. Nanao was very sad about his answer and cried. In the afternoon, Guy was exhausted, because the spellology class was filled with surprise. The spellology teacher Frankie hated the athames, and said mage had no need of anything but their white wands. In the meantime, Katie looked forward for the magical biology class. Followed the third period began, and teacher Vanessa said they will treat magical creatures as resources. So Vanessa used a spell and showed them magical silkworms. After that, she told the students, if they aren't able to feed them with the right amount of magic, the cocoons will turn black and it will turn into an evil monster. So they were all told that their task today is to make 5 cocoons to succeed, and they will have 10 tries each. Following this, Michelle succeeded with ease and turned 9 of 10 into cocoons, but 1 failed. Then she noticed that Oliver managed to succeed too. Also she knew that something happened between him and Nanao. As a result, she said she will assist Nanao and Guy to pass. However, Pete managed to make 5 cocoons to pass, and Katie was able to making cocoons too. Meanwhile, Vanessa noticed that Katie was very slow. A short time later, Katie was almost finished, and Michelle noticed she was very careful. Oliver explained her that Katie wants to save many living creatures as she can. Suddenly she was distracted and lost her focus to feed the creatures. As a result, the cocoon turned black and she refused to kill the monster. In the evening she apologized for making trouble, but Oliver cheered her up. Then she told Oliver that her family had a bunch of animals. As a result, she was very close with the animals and can't see animals being hurt. Suddenly Oliver said that her ideals are great and that she should stay the way she is. Followed Oliver said she is not alone and she can always tell them her worries. Later Oliver was walking and Teresa told him she will be leaving his side for a while. Oliver was surprised and said he will be fine on his own. After dinner, Katie was full and she noticed that Nanao looks a bit down. Katie tried to cheer her up and Pete couldn't find his book. Oliver and Michelle decided to accompany Pete and they said they should hurry. Guy was confused, but Katie said she heard once that Kimberly's school building sits on top of a giant labyrinth. Afterwards, Pete was happy to find his book. Following this, they tried to go back, but the room began to change. Oliver explained Pete about the labyrinth. Suddenly Pete heard a voice and Oliver told him to stop. Then Opilia showed up, and she said she is a 4th-year student. Oliver understood how dangerous Opilia is, and she attacked another student with a spell. After that, Oliver said he knew about her seduction abilities, and Michelle saved Pete in time. Oliver was impressed that Oliver could withstand her arousing smell and tried it again. But Oliver decided to run away with his friends, and another student appeared. He told he is Cyrus and wants to use them as his new toys. Meanwhile, Opilia was disappointed because they tried to run away, and she said she will discipline them. Following this, Oliver tried to calm Pete down and told him they are finished if he attacks them. Then Opilia greeted Cyrus and she called him disgusting. He insulted her too, and Opilia was furious. As a result, they began to fight each other, and they cast strong spells. Opilia was giving birth and she summoned a huge demon, so two monsters were fighting, and Oliver said they should run away, but Cyrus blocked their path and they couldn't escape. Suddenly, Nanau appeared. However, Cyrus' monster was defeated, and he launched a second spell. Nanau was ready to beat the enemies up and said they can run away if they want, but she decided to go all out in the fight, and she didn't care if she will die in the fight today. After that, Ophelia's monster managed to destroy Cyrus' bone snake. Then she rushed towards the enemies, but Oliver didn't let her to die in the fight. Suddenly a guy appeared, who stopped the fight and defeated both monsters. They both were shocked to see Alvin, and he told Oliver and his friends that he won't let them make more trouble. So Carlos warned Opilia not to make a wrong move and said to Oliver with his friends, they are saved now. Alvin told them they should leave this place and go back in the depths of the labyrinth. After that, the president of Kimberly was happy to see them unharmed. Carlos said they didn't need to worry, and they showed them the way out of the labyrinth. Later, Oliver was angry at Nanau because he didn't like her death wish. Michelle calmed Oliver down and said they all needs to talk this out. Followed, Nanau said she lost any attachment to life. She asked herself all the time if she is really alive at all, because her life should end in her last battle. In the last battle, she faced with a small group of 200 warriors against 50,000 samurais. Nanau managed to break through the enemy defenses, and she defeated many enemies with ease. Suddenly she was attacked, and Nanau dodged him and slayed him down. Nanau was surrounded by many samurais, and she asked for fight against the strongest warrior of Soma's clan. He was angry because Nanau cut his son down without even knowing who he was. After that, Soma wanted to revenge his son, but Nanau was saved by a sorcerer. Michelle's father showed up and understood that Nanau had enough talent to become a strong sorcerer. So she was invited to the Kimberly school, and since that day, she lost any attachment to life. This was the reasons why she tried to fight all out, and didn't care about to die in a fight. Also, she said in the duel with Oliver, she felt happy. She understood that Oliver didn't want to fight until one of them die, but she felt sad after he pushed her away. Katie thought that she felt sad because Oliver turned her down. Nanau agreed, and she realized that she maybe got feelings for Oliver. After that, Nanau said her style of fighting is about to killing at its core. Michelle replied she needs to find a new way to live, and Kimberly is a great place to find the solution for her problems. Also, she said she can count on all her friends now, and everyone said they will support her to find a new way to live. Oliver said she needs to promise him that she won't try to get killed in a fight. Then she promised Oliver that she would never try to throw her life away again. Nanau asked him to teach her how to live a normal life, and he agreed. Following this, Michelle sensed that Oliver and Nanau were fated to be together. In the next morning, they were waiting for Nanau, and she was ready for class. Following this, Nanau walked next to Oliver and said she wants to look at him. So Guy and Pete teased Oliver and said they are a cute couple. Then Katie said she shouldn't press up against Oliver, and the others said Oliver got infinite riz and wished him good luck to get a threesome. In the class of Teacher Garland, one of the students asked if he can use a spellblade. Suddenly he explained the students about the different variety of spellblades that exists in the world. He said the techniques of the spellblades are secrets, and he can't tell them about his power. The students asked for a hint, but he said they should go back to work. Nanau was surprised to hear about an invincible sword technique, and Andrew appeared, who looked down on them. Michelle tried to stop him to bully Oliver and Nanau. So Andrew challenged Oliver to a duel, but Nanau sensed that he wanted to lose on purpose. Nanau said she don't want to see him lose unless he is truly beaten. Andrew was ashamed and he felt angry, but Garland said they should focus on the sword training. Later, Michelle said it's her fault for Andrew becoming an arrogant noble. The reasons was that they were constantly compared, and he always feared losing his place. Suddenly Pete appeared and said Katie ran off to save a troll. Katie tried to protect the troll, and she was insulted by an older student. Darius got the job to kill the troll because he is a danger for all the students. Then Katie don't let him harm the troll, and he paralyzed Katie with a magic spell. Oliver and his friends stopped him, and they were ready to fight against him. Suddenly Vera showed up, and Teacher Garland appeared too. He said the troll will stay alive for now until they figure out why the troll got out of control. After that, Vera said if Katie needs help, she can always talk to her. They then went back to school and Andrew sent Oliver and Nanao a letter challenging them to a duel. The next morning Katie tried to befriend with the troll, but Vera said the troll had been acting strange since the incident. Katie tried to convince him to eat something and said the food is delicious. Meanwhile, other students made fun of Katie, and Michelle was worried about Andrew's duel request. Oliver said the best solution is to accept the challenge. Later, in the classroom, everyone were talking about Katie, who tried to befriend with a troll. Guy was angry, and Oliver tried to stop him so he didn't get into trouble. But the students didn't stop badmouthing Katie, and they became more and more provocative. Then, Katie appeared in the classroom, and she was glad that she wasn't late. After that, some of her classmates started to bully her. Katie was intimidated and her friends got angry. Suddenly, Oliver attacked one of his classmates with a fire spell. Oliver was ready to beat them up and asked Guy if he wants to help him. As a result, Oliver and his friends started to punish them for insulting their friend Katie. Later, Michelle visited them in the detention room. Guy and Nanao were proud that they could teach many schoolmates a lesson. Michelle was surprised that Oliver was the one who started the fight. So Katie said sorry and knew it was her fault, but her friends said she didn't need to apologize. Then Michelle said that she personally agreed with them, but they made the situation worse. In the followed night, 2 students told Oliver and his friends to use the Acutus spell on their swords. Oliver said they should be careful in the fight, and 2 older students guide them to the duel grounds. So they were walking for a while, and Michelle said there are lots of places in the labyrinth for the duel. However, they arrived in the chosen place and the 2 older students opened the gate. After entering the gate, they discovered a coliseum for the duel. Then Oliver asked Michelle to protect the 3 of them, and she wished Oliver and Nanao good luck in the duel. Followed, Andrew appeared with a friend, and many monsters came out of the gates. They defeated the monsters with strong spells, and Oliver told Nanao that Kobold Hunt is a famous game played by mages. Oliver asked Andrew why he didn't want to duel with them. Andrew replied he can't any honor by defeating them. As a result, he decided to play Goblin Hunt. Oliver knew Nanao never seen a kobold. Suddenly a goblin ran away, but a student attacked him. He treated the monster like garbage and Nanao was angry. The other students were amused and Nanao was disappointed with their attitude against magical beasts. However, she was angry and said that they are all a disgrace to society because they abuse weak beings. The other mages started to hate her and they threw at her bottles and garbage. Following this, she didn't want to play the game of Andrew. Andrew didn't let her leave the duel grounds and the others said they will beaten her up if she tried to leave. Meanwhile, another student was commanded to send out the next kobolds. Suddenly, the monster badly injured the student, and everyone were confused. The monster was out of control and attacked the students. Oliver was shocked to see a Garuda and noted that Andrew knew nothing of any of this. Afterwards, they were fighting against the legendary monster, but he wiped them out with ease. The students couldn't manage to defeat him, and Oliver knew they are not strong enough to fight against a divine beast familiar. The door was closed and the Garuda didn't stop to hunt them. Andrew was afraid and he tried to escape, but Garuda was faster than him. In the last moment, Nanao protected him, and she decided to fight against the giant monster. As a result, she activated her innocent color and started to fight against him. Nanao was able to dodge his attacks, and Guy wanted to help her. Michelle stopped him, because he will only hold her back in the fight. Michelle trusted Oliver and Nanao, so she decided to protect the 3 of them. Then we see Nanao, and the monster was able to overwhelm her, but Oliver supported her. He managed to save her in the last moment and got the attention of the monster, but Oliver wasn't feared and he cast many spells and launched an attack. The monster dodged his attack and injured Oliver. Nanao didn't let her crush die and tried to win some time for Oliver. After that, he cast a heal spell to recover himself. Suddenly, Andrew asked if they are not afraid, and Oliver answered he is scared too. But he can't let down Nanao, because she is a real warrior, and he didn't want to let her die. In addition, he said Nanao wanted to see him fight too. He attacked the monster and said he will make an opening for Nanao to finish the fight with a final blow. So they both combined their power and attacked the monster. Oliver used his chance and he paralyzed with a lightning spell the monster. Nanao began to launch the final attack, but Garuda recovered and Oliver was ready to sacrifice his life. In the last moment, Andrew helped them in the fight, so Nanao used all her power and she went all out against the monster. As a result, she defeated Garuda and managed to save all students. Everyone were badly injured, and Oliver thanked Andrew for his help. Also, Nanao thanked him for saving them, and Oliver tried to calm him down. Following, he apologized for being a crybaby, and asked Nanao how she can fight a more powerful foe without hesitation. Oliver cheered him up, and he wanted to get along with Andrew. Nanao recognized him as a new comrade, and he was very happy with her words. After that, Andrew went back to the academy, and Michelle thanked him for helping them in the last moment. In the followed morning, Teresa was ashamed because she couldn't protect Oliver. Oliver said it wasn't her fault, and he was reminiscing about a moment in his past. Following this, we see Katie, who served the troll breakfast. Vera didn't think Katie could convince the troll to eat his breakfast. Suddenly, the troll ate his breakfast, and Vera was amazed that Katie was able to build a connection with the monster. After that, they were in class, and all students were traumatized. Pete couldn't eat lunch after the last class, and Guy agreed. Later they noticed that all students stopped to bully Katie after the fight. But Oliver suspected that God-rank monster attack was no coincidence, and Michelle agreed with him. Oliver thought it might be retaliation from demi-human rights activists. Pete and Guy hoped that the teachers will find the culprit soon. Suddenly Oliver replied, they will let the incident slide, because no one died and it happened in the Labyrinth. Then we see Nanao. She has been admired by many students since the fight against Garuda. Katie wonders why Oliver isn't famous, even though he fought alongside Nanao. Michelle agreed, and she said that she loved Oliver's fighting style. Then Pete said that Oliver isn't popular because his fighting style is boring, and Oliver got an emotional damage. Following, Michelle tried to cheer him up with a victory kiss. He stopped her, and Katie was very jealous. Suddenly, Nanao appeared, and Katie thought Nanao will stop them. Nanao learned about the victory kiss, and she kissed Oliver. After that, Nanao said she deserved a victory kiss too and waited for Oliver kissing her. Katie was angry and she tried to stop them, but Nanao told him to hurry up. Then Oliver decided to kiss Nanao, but his big sister appeared, and she was happy to see him. She was glad to see his little brother with many friends and told him to take good care of his friends. Afterwards, Katie found out his nickname is Noel, and Nanao didn't get her victory kiss. After that, the alchemy class began, and teacher Darius told them they will learn to produce magic potions. Oliver noticed that Guy didn't have a lot of experience with potions, and he offered to help his friend. Then Oliver wanted to help Pete too, but he refused and said he studied a lot. A short time later, Oliver finished making his potion. Suddenly a classmate was screaming and he helped him. Followed, a girl was injured, and Oliver told her to wash her eyes with olive oil. Meanwhile, Pete screwed up and Oliver cast a spell to create a barrier. Oliver lay down on the ground, and he successfully managed to prevent the disaster. All students were impressed, and teacher Darius was surprised about the talent of his student. He complimented Oliver and said that he will remember his name. Suddenly Darius gave him an advice and told him he should choose his friends more carefully. After the class, his friends were happy that he got popular too, and Pete apologized. Following this, Andrew greeted them, and he wanted to talk with Oliver. He said Darius took talented students under his wings and then ruins their future careers. So Oliver was told about the bad rumors of teacher Darius. Also, Andrew warned him to reject his invitation. Also, he said that a person wants to talk with Katie outside. In the afternoon, a girl apologized for casting a spell on Katie in the troll incident. Guy was angry, and she said that it was just a prank. Oliver asked her if she was the person who put that spell on Katie. She replied that she was just playing a little prank and didn't know that the troll was getting out of control. Oliver didn't think that the girl lied, and Katie forgave her. Then Katie decided to visit the troll, and she was enjoying the time with the troll. In the evening, Oliver taught Nanao to casting a fire spell. She failed, and Oliver said she needs to imagine the spell. Then Oliver focused to cast a spell, and he shot a very strong fire spell. Meanwhile, Katie learned that the troll was able to use the human language, so he tried to warn Katie about an evil person. Followed, we see Nanao again. She wanted to master the wind spell to help them catching the troll if he tried to escape again. Suddenly, Oliver asked her why she thought that the troll tried to run away. Oliver realized that Katie was in danger and they tried to find her. However, Oliver found Katie's magic sword, and the troll told them she was kidnapped. Oliver and Nanao learned Vera is dangerous and she had brought Katie into the labyrinth. Following this, they were on the way to find Katie, and Oliver suspected that Vera tried to bring intelligence to demi-humans. Nanao learned that the project was criticized and abandoned. Then they entered the labyrinth. Oliver told the troll got out of control because someone was messing with his brain. Following, they found a staircase, but they were teleported with a spell. Vera appeared and welcomed them both to her workshop. In addition, she said she created Garuda, who attacked them. Suddenly, Nanao saw Katie lay unconscious on the table, and Oliver was worried. Vera replied, that Katie is the key, because she was able to awaken the troll's ability to speak. As a result, she wanted to look at her brain and said she wants to find out the secret of her power. Vera said she had a lot of experience and they didn't need to worry, but Nanao was furious and she attacked Vera. Suddenly, Vera used her Eye of Medusa and petrified her. Oliver used a spell to free Nanao, and Vera was surprised about the talent of Oliver. Then Vera told them no one could win against her if she used the true power of her snake eye. Oliver told Nanao to avoid seeing in her eyes, and they rushed towards the enemy. Vera countered with a strong spell and she destroyed the spell of Oliver. Meanwhile, Nanao used the moment and attacked Vera with her sword. She was impressed by her swordplay, but she used a spell to let Nanao slip. In the last moment, Oliver saved her with a fire spell. Then he combined two spells and almost overwhelmed her. Vera managed to dodge all their attacks and she just played with them. Following this, Vera launched an lighting spell and pushed them into a corner. Oliver attacked the chemicals and caused a small explosion. However, Vera was distracted and Nanao tried to attack her, but she trapped Nanao in a huge hole. As a result, she tried to burn down Nanao and she cut her fire spell. After that, Nanao was attacked, but she diverted the wind spell with ease. Oliver was surprised, because Nanao deflected the spell with her katana. However, Vera was excited and she cast a fire spell with all her power. Nanao and Oliver combined their power and blocked the attack of Vera together. After that, Oliver got a plan and they started to create a strong attack against Vera. Oliver used many spells in the same time to distract Vera. Then Nanao started to launch her attack, but Oliver noticed the trap of Vera. She planned to use a second magic eye and Nanao rushed towards her. Following this, she realized she needs a new plan to defeat Vera, and she managed to create a strong attack with lightning speed. As a result, she cut off Vera's hand and her enchanted eye was useless. Oliver was stunned and he noticed she didn't realize what she had did. The reason is, she timed her attack perfectly and analyzed the whole situation in just a short moment. Nanao didn't know that she used the legendary Spellblade. She created a 7th Spellblade that no one in the world knows about. Afterwards, they healed Vera and Nanao wanted to receive her victory kiss. Suddenly, President Alvin appeared, because they got an anonymous tip. Alvin and Carlos were surprised that they defeated an upperclassman. A few hours later, Katie woke up. Oliver said he thought Vera really just wanted to help her at first, but she hadn't expected Katie to be able to persuade the troll to speak. Katie wasn't angry. Suddenly, Oliver and Nanao received a victory kiss by Katie. Katie acted weird, and she said that she will change the school. Also, she will make the school just a little bit kinder. Oliver started crying tears of joy when he heard Katie's kind words. He was glad he'd managed to protect a kind girl who wanted to make the world more peaceful. Later, they were on the way to their rooms, but Darius said he wants to talk with Oliver. Following this, Darius explained to Oliver that many talented students died creating a powerful spell. Followed, strong monsters appeared, and Darius defeated them without casting a single spell. Oliver was shocked about his power, and he was led to a suspicious place. Then Oliver got the suspicion that Darius was the real culprit who caused the troll attacking Katie. Oliver said he found evidence that he was the one supplying Vera with demi-humans. So Oliver learned his great dream is to eliminate stupidity from the human race. Darius said he intended to brainwash the humans like the troll. As a result, he asked Oliver to assist him by his evil plan to eliminate stupidity from the human race. Suddenly Oliver asked where he was in the year 1525 of 4th month. Darius was surprised that he was a relative of the woman who died and Oliver got angry. Followed, Oliver said he should prepare to die, and he planned to attack Darius. Suddenly, he was slayed down, and Oliver tried to find a way to defeat Darius. He was deep in thought, and realized that he can't win with his power. Then he decided to push his limits and become a better version of himself in order to defeat Darius. As a result, Oliver was able to activate his secret power, and he slayed down Darius with the 4th Spellblade. In addition, he combined the Spellblade with a strong thunder spell. Darius couldn't believe to see the Spellblade again, which should die with the woman who he murdered. Suddenly he realized that Oliver was her son. Oliver wanted to get his revenge for his beloved mother and said Darius will regret it, to murder his mom. Then Oliver started to punish Darius with powerful spells. In the last moment, Darius apologized, but Oliver couldn't forgive him. Then we see his mother was running away, and she was hunted by many mages. One of them was Oliver's teacher, and Oliver punished Darius with the same spell. Oliver was furious, and Darius asked him to end this. Finally, Oliver ended the punishment, and his siblings appeared behind him. Then his big brother told him not to use the 4th Spellblade carelessly anymore because it put too much strain on his body. Suddenly, Teresa appears and swore her allegiance to Oliver again. After that, the followers of their organization were called. Oliver was crowned to the next leader, and he promised to revenge her mother. As a result, he said he will wipe all enemies out who murdered his beloved mother. Then we see the last moment of Oliver's mom's life. She was betrayed by her bestie. So Oliver planned to get revenge on Kimberly's headmistress Esmeralda and everyone else. A few months later, we see a man and Vanessa used a monster spell to eliminate the intruder who was trying to spy on the meeting. Esmeralda called everyone together to talk about Darius because he had disappeared. Then Vanessa said that only one in the room or Garland and McFarlane could defeat Darius. Suddenly Theodore appeared, and he annoyed Vanessa. Esmeralda ordered him not to cause any trouble, and she decided that none of the people in the room were the culprit. Then Esmeralda decided not to talk about the incident anymore, and Vanessa asked what she would do if a student was the murderer. She replied that she wouldn't do anything, but if Vanessa was right in her guess, she would eliminate the student. After the meeting, we see Pete, who was not feeling well and whose body became very warm. Pete woke up and he was wondering why he was feeling weird. Suddenly he realized that he had turned into a woman, and Oliver asked what was wrong. He replied that everything was fine and didn't tell Oliver anything about it. In the afternoon, the girls also noticed that Pete had been acting strange since breakfast. Katie thought Guy had upset him, but Pete asked his friends to just leave him alone. Michelle then greeted Stacy, but she was ignored, and Faye apologized for Stacy's behavior. Michelle explained that since school started, her cousin has been avoiding her, and Michelle's friends have tried to cheer her up. Following this, we see Dustin, and he told the students that today they will learn to ride a broom. Nana was worried that she won't be able to do it. Oliver said everything would be fine, and he was confident that she would make it. Then Dustin opened the door with a spell and showed the students the broom house. Nana was overwhelmed by the sight, and she learned that the brooms are magical fauna. Dustin explained that mages feed the brooms with magical power, and in return, they are allowed to ride them. Meanwhile, many brooms wanted to be tamed by Nanau, but she spotted a special broom in a corner. The broom reminded her of her first horse, and Nanau spoke to the broom. She managed to tame the rare broom, and she was accepted as the broom's partner. Then Nanau rode on the broom, and Dustin was jealous because he tried countless times to tame the broom. As Nanau flew in the sky, Oliver remembered that it was his mother's broom. Later, Nanau and Katie said they had a lot of fun and the boys didn't manage to tame a broom. Also, Pete was still acting weird, and Pete was annoyed with Guy. Katie wondered what happened to Darius because they had a substitute teacher. Since then, there have been many rumors circulating about Darius's disappearance. Suddenly Theodore appeared and he was happy to see his daughter. Theodore then asked if Nanau was enjoying school and she thanked him. Theodore was happy that Michelle made a lot of friends and he said that he is the substitute teacher. Then class began and Stacy was praised by her uncle for reading his book. Pete was also a fan of his books and he bragged that he had read all of his books. Theodore was surprised to have another fan in his class and promised to give him a souvenir from his adventure next time. Then Pete started feeling a little dizzy and Oliver was worried about his friend. Following this, we see Enrico, who taught magic engineering to the students. Enrico wanted to teach the students the basics of magical civilization, and he promised that no one would be bored. Oliver understood that the teacher was crazy, and he showed the students a riddle. Then the students were tested, and both groups had 60 minutes to solve the magical puzzle. An hour later, the countdown went down, and the students failed to solve the problem in time. They decided to run away, but Pete collapsed and was unable to get to safety. Oliver protected his friend from getting hurt. Then Guy poured water over his head, and he already suspected that Enrico's lessons would be dangerous. So all the snakes were defeated, and Enrico congratulated the students for their good work. He rewarded all students with lollipops, which had healing properties against poisonous snake bites. Meanwhile, Oliver found out Pete's secret, and he wanted to talk to him about it after class. In the evening, Oliver learned that Pete had turned into a girl, and he showed Oliver his breasts. Oliver explained to him that he is a Reversi who can switch between two genders. Pete learned that this made him better at using magic. However, Pete tested a thunder spell and was able to use powerful lightning magic. Oliver explained that he had awakened a special power. Suddenly, Carlos appeared. She knew from the beginning that Pete was a Reversi. Carlos gave Pete an invitation, and she planned to show Pete something in the labyrinth that night. Later they were met by Alvin, who wanted to lead them to an event of Carlos. He explained that he's often in the labyrinth to watch over the students. He then asked Pete how he found life at the school. Alvin knew that Pete was having a hard time because he comes from a non-magical family and said he could always ask him for advice. Then Pete and Oliver entered a room. Alvin explained that most of the students are also Reversis. Following this, older students showed up, and they said that Oliver can relax. They said that they are not their enemies, and said that they can enjoy the show. Oliver was surprised to see his big brother, and he set the stage for Carlos. Afterwards, Carlos said that the Reversi can always ask her for advice, and she performed a calming song. Pete was glad he had told Oliver his secret. Later, Oliver and Pete learned that their friends were worried. We also see a mysterious guy, who was watching Oliver and his friends. A few days later, Guy admired the older students riding the broomsticks. Nanao learned about broom sports and thought that a person was beaten. Michelle explained that they were in no danger. Then Michelle guessed that Nanao would definitely be great at broom sports. Suddenly their group was approached by Tullio, who knew about Nanao and Oliver. He talked down to them and said that they would definitely run into each other more often. We then see Oliver defeating a student in Garland's class. Following this, Tullio and Pete were called to the dueling ground, and Pete was angry. Katie noticed that Pete was tense. Then the fight started, and Pete attacked Tullio very aggressively, but Tullio defeated him. Garland lectured Pete and said he shouldn't try to rush things, so Pete was humiliated, and he was called princess by Tullio. Tullio said that he is weak and he is nothing special without his friends. After class, Pete decided to train harder to get stronger. Michelle and Oliver wanted to help him with his training, and they both argued about the training method. Nanao didn't understand their conversation, and Guy explained to her that there are 3 different sword fighting styles. Then Guy and Katie tried to calm them down, and they realized they weren't paying any attention to Pete's request. So they first looked at Pete's habits to find out his fighting style. However, Oliver showed him his weaknesses, and tried to teach him not to rush his attacks. Tullio spied on them and learned about Pete's secret training. At lunch, Pete realized what he had done wrong, and Tullio showed up. He offered to teach Pete a faster way to get stronger. Then he showed his true colors, and he wanted to show the students that he is the best first year. He challenged everyone who shared his opinion, and Stacy was there to receive the title of strongest first year. Faye was worried about Stacy, and he joined the party too. Afterwards, Tullio convinced Nanao to join in, and he provoked Oliver. As a result, Michelle and Oliver joined the party, and Tullio talked about the specifics. Tullio planned for all participants to fight against each other, and the person with the most medals at the end of the tournament would be crowned the strongest first year. In addition, the tournament will last a week, with participants being allowed to fight each other at any time. Suddenly, Nanao was challenged by the speed talker Evelyn, and she was sure that she could defeat Nanao. So they went outside and got ready to fight each other. Oliver said Nanao is not good with magic, but Nanao will win against Evelyn. The fight then began, and Nanao reflected Evelyn's attack. Nanao won immediately, and Evelyn had no chance against her combat skills. Nanao's friends were impressed with her skills, and Michelle said she will try her best to fight together in the finals. Then Michelle was looking forward to the fights with her friends. A few hours later, Pete thanked Oliver for helping him with his training. After that, Pete went home, and Oliver sensed Teresa, who was hiding behind trees. She told Oliver that his siblings had invited him for tea in the Labyrinth. In the followed night, Oliver met in the Labyrinth Opilia, and he was ready to fight against her. Opilia wasn't in the mood to fight and asked him to sit next to her. Then Oliver started talking to Opilia, and he got to know more about Opilia. She spoke to him about the Garuda accident, and he replied that he did not want to fight Garuda again. She was also impressed that Oliver was so brave, and said that she and Carlos always went with Alvin in their first year, because the school was dangerous. At the end, she thanked him for the nice conversation and warned Oliver to stay upstairs for the next few months. Afterwards, he met his siblings and he asked his big brother about Carlos. Gwyn said he wouldn't call Carlos a comrade, but the two had a long history. In addition, Oliver was told that he is free to use this place as his home if he wants to relax. However, Shannon found out about her little brother's encounter with Opilia, and she was concerned. Then Gwyn asked about Nanao, and Oliver confirmed that she used a 7th Spellblade. So Oliver said that Nanao was able to tame his mother's broom. Shannon understood that Nanao meant a lot to her little brother. As a result, his brother gave him advice, and he was happy to open up to his siblings about his feelings towards Nanao. On the way home, a mysterious person followed him. Oliver noticed Tullio spying on him and asked why he was following him. Tullio said he was just jealous and he wanted to be the star. Tullio challenged Oliver to a fight and said that they should lower the safety regulations. Then they started fighting each other, and Tullio wanted to prove to Oliver that he is better than him. He blocked Oliver's sword strike with just one hand. He then started attacking Oliver with dirty tricks, but Oliver fought fairly. Oliver was seriously injured by Tullio's dirty tricks, but he didn't give up. Suddenly Oliver became angry and he thanked Tullio for giving him some insight. Oliver said that he won't lose to a weakling like him and was sure of his victory. Oliver then showed that he was stronger and faster as him, and he overwhelmed Tullio. Then Tullio tried to free himself, but Oliver was far too strong and he defeated Tullio. Tullio accepted his defeat and gave Oliver his medal. After the fight, Oliver said that he still respected him for his fighting style. They were able to get along, and Tullio learned that Oliver didn't become strong through talent. Later Teresa congratulated him and she was touched by his words. Meanwhile, Tullio was approached by Cyrus in the Labyrinth and he wanted a medal from him. Following this, Oliver returned to his room and he noticed that his friend Pete was in pain. Pete had a nightmare and he was shaking in his bed. Afterwards, Oliver tried to ease his pain and he said that he will send mana into his body that will calm him down. Pete was feeling better, but he was nervous. Oliver explained to him that it is a healing art, and he remembered that he used the spell when Shannon was pregnant. Afterwards, Oliver said that his body would get used to it, and Pete realized that he had feelings for Oliver. The following morning, Pete told his friends the secret that he was a Reversi. They congratulated him, and Michelle planned to explain more about his new body during a gender switch. She cast a spell and Pete sensed the Reversi power in his body. Nanatsu was surprised that female wombs can collect mana, and Oliver stopped her from pulling up her skirt. Suddenly Tullio appeared, and he wasn't there to argue. He warned Oliver and said to take care of himself because he knew that Cyrus was after them. In class, Stacy faced Pete in a duel and she was in a bad mood. Then the fight began, and Oliver told Pete to focus on his enemy's movement. Unfortunately, Pete was hit with a strong attack, but Pete didn't give up. Stacy looked down at him, and Guy said he was allowed to use magic in the duel. Stacy didn't believe Pete could win, and he attacked with lightning magic. The others noticed that Pete wasn't using his Reversi power. Meanwhile, Stacy demonstrated her powers and she showed the difference between the two sorcerers. Stacy was angry because Pete had embarrassed her in class in front of her beloved uncle. Then Oliver said that Pete hasn't given up yet and he can win. Suddenly Pete attacked and he dodged Stacy's attack. Before he could use his final blow, the time for the duel ran out. Pete was sad because he couldn't land a single punch, but his friends cheered him up. Suddenly Stacy became angry and Michelle wondered why she didn't like her. After that, Tullio showed up and he said that he didn't have to be sad because he did his best. In the evening, Katie visited the giant troll and she received a letter. She learned that Vera wanted to give Katie her workshop and she believed it was her way of apologizing. But Michelle and Oliver thought that it was too early to get an own place because the Labyrinth is dangerous for first years. Unfortunately, they couldn't change Katie's decision, and she told them that she planned to change the world. She told them that demi-humans are being killed and magical faunas are being treated badly. As a result, Nanatsu decided to support Katie, and she hoped that Katie will be able to change the world. Katie was touched by her friend, and the others also agreed to take the workshop. In the end, Oliver said that she had to keep her promise, and he also agreed that they would take over Vera's workshop. The following evening they explored the labyrinth and Guy was worried about the path. Oliver said that they should be careful because there are a lot of monsters in the labyrinth. On the way to the workshop they discovered many magical fauna, and Guy found most of the monsters disgusting. Later they came to a path that was very dangerous. Katie warned her friends, saying that the spines aren't thick enough to kill them. Afterwards she used a smoke, and they were able to cross the path. Suddenly a trap was activated and they managed to cross the dangerous path safely. Guy said his butt hurts and he blamed Katie for his stabbed butt. He punished Katie, and Nanatsu said she smelled something delicious in the air. Afterwards, they found older students roasting delicious meat. The Labyrinth Gourmet Club introduced themselves and asked if they wanted to join their club. Meanwhile, a member found another monster to eat and one of the members had a stomachache from the barbecue. They continued walking and Katie wondered who these weirdos were. Michelle said that the leader of the club was Kevin, who is very famous. Suddenly Guy felt like having his own barbecue and they went out to buy meat. The merchant showed them delicious smoky barbecue pork, and she gave them a discount on their goods. They couldn't refuse the offer and bought a large amount of the goods. Later they found the entrance to their new secret hideout, and they discovered a seal. Katie opened the secret door with a spell and she wanted to show them the new secret base. They were surprised by Vera's workshop and were excited to use the base. However, Katie said that they can do anything at the place and they will have a lot of fun together. Then they all said what they planned to do at the base. Pete annoyed Guy and he got angry. After the delicious barbecue, Katie was worried about Michelle. She said everything is fine, and she is happy because she had a lot of fun with them. Michelle thought they could give the base a name and they loved the idea. Suddenly Nanatsu said for them all to gather together with their blades. Then they formed a circle and crossed their blades. Nanatsu said that they call that a sword rose in their homeland. She suggested they name the base, the Sword Roses. Everyone liked Nanatsu's chosen name, and Michelle was looking forward to the future with her friends. Everyone blushed, and Oliver said she didn't have to be embarrassed. This is how the Sword Roses were founded, and Oliver memorized the moment so he would never forget the day. In the meantime, Stacy beat up a sorcerer and she received his medal after the fight. Following this, we see Oliver's friends and they were happy that Katie showed them the workshop of Vera. Guy praised Katie and he realized that she had already fallen asleep. Meanwhile, Stacy wanted to prove to Michelle that she wasn't her replacement, and Cyrus was watching her. The following morning, Oliver helped Nanatsu with her training, and he asked if she was able to control her spellblade that she used on that day. She replied that she hasn't been able to activate the spellblade again since then, so Oliver told her that they will practice spellcraft. She wanted to fight with swords, but Oliver said she had to learn the basics of magic first. Suddenly she heard Guy screaming. The reason for this was that Katie had brought a huge troll into the hideout. Then they learned that the troll came to the hiding place on its own. Vera replied that she had brought the troll here, and they were surprised to see Vera. She didn't want to cause any trouble and just helped Katie get the troll to the workshop. Meanwhile, Pete woke up and was frightened by a severed hand. The magic hand was Vera's severed hand, and Vera called it Millie Hand. After that, Michelle asked about the reason why she gave Katie her workshop. Vera replied that she sees it as an investment because Katie has great potential. Following this, Katie told about her permission to watch out for the troll, and he liked Katie too. She called him Marco, and he said that Katie had talked a lot about them. Then Oliver said to Marco that from today on they are friends too. Later, Vera showed them the quickest way to the workshop and explained to them that the entrance is not always usable. Before Vera left, Katie thanked her and she said goodbye. However, they went to explore the labyrinth and Michelle said not to go any further. She said that the second layer is much more dangerous and is called Bustling Forest. Suddenly Stacy appeared and she said that she was waiting for Michelle to get her medal. Marco wanted to protect his friends and Katie calmed him down. Oliver's team was then challenged by Stacy to a tag team match. Nanatsu was excited and she wanted to fight with Michelle against Stacy and Faye. Unfortunately, Oliver was worried that they would be at a disadvantage, but Michelle agreed to the challenge. Suddenly Cyrus showed up and he wanted to join Stacy's team. Oliver explained to Nanatsu that Cyrus comes from a family that is very talented at fighting. Then he insulted Michelle and managed to make her angry with his rude words. As a result, they accepted the challenge of fighting 3 versus 3. Faye liked the idea because Cyrus is fighting Nanatsu, which increases her chances of defeating Michelle. Suddenly, Cyrus planned to lead them to a battlefield. Marco promised to protect Katie and the others, so they wouldn't get hurt in the fight. Following this, they went to the battlefield with Cyrus, and he led them through the second layer. Once on the battlefield, Cyrus suggested that they use the anti-lethality spells to halve their strength. Then the fight started and Oliver blinded Faye because he planned to fight against Cyrus. Faye said that he will take care of Nanatsu and she should focus on her fight against Michelle. So the fight began between the two cousins, and Michelle wanted to know why Stacy hated her. She refused to tell her the reasons, and Michelle easily fended off all of her attacks. Meanwhile, Nanatsu admired their fighting style and Faye told her about the Martin McFly fighting style. Suddenly Faye started casting a fire spell, and he used the moment to run away. Then we see Oliver, and he attacked Cyrus with powerful fire spells. Oliver immediately activated a speed spell, and he ran towards Cyrus. At the last moment, Cyrus dodged Oliver's attack, and they exchanged powerful spells in battle. Suddenly Cyrus said that he had already suspected that Oliver wasn't special, and Oliver annoyed him. Cyrus decided to attack Oliver, and Oliver tried to lure him into a trap. He managed to predict his attack, and he looked down on Oliver's fighting style. However, Oliver attacked his opponent with the Flash Wisp spell, and he combined it with a body enhancement spell. As a result, he successfully injured Cyrus and showed him his strength. Cyrus got angry that Oliver underestimated him and Katie had a bad feeling as she looked at the sky. Meanwhile, Faye was exhausted and Nanatsu chased him. Stacy showed up to support Faye and they were surrounded. Suddenly, Stacy asked if he was willing to give her victory at any cost. He remembered when Stacy took him on as a servant when he lost his parents. He replied that he is always on her side, and she began to activate Son Goku's Genki Dama spell. As a result, Faye transformed into a werewolf that increased his power to over 9,000. Faye attacked Michelle and she tried to stop him. Nanao then attacked him, but her attack was also ineffective. So the two girls came up with a plan, and Nanao began a second attack on Faye. Stacy said she will surpass Michelle here and Uncle will accept her. Following this, we see Oliver and Cyrus asked if he wasn't worried about his friends. He replied that he believes in his friends and will defeat Cyrus. Meanwhile, Michelle praised her cousin, but she gave Stacy the advice to turn her servant back because as half-blood he suffers from the transformation. At that moment, Stacy remembered her childhood with Faye and wondered why her father had never praised her. She thought it was because she wasn't related to her father by blood. Unfortunately, Stacy decided to keep fighting because she was jealous of Michelle for having a carefree childhood. Nanao protected Michelle and she said that she was using her kindness in the wrong way. Michelle was aware of her friend's words, and she promised to end the fight against her cousin. Then we see Oliver, and Cyrus managed to overwhelm Oliver with his power. Oliver said that he didn't intimidate him and that his way of looking down on him was similar to Andrew. Suddenly Cyrus became angry hearing the words, and he activated a spell to defeat Oliver. Unfortunately, his attack failed because Oliver used a spell. Following this, Stacy decided to strike the finishing blow with Faye to end the fight. Stacy ordered her servant to charge at the two, and she focused on Michelle. She underestimated Michelle and she attacked with a powerful lightning spell. As a result, the two fell down, and Nanao stopped Faye, saying the fight was over. Michelle explained that she had used the same spell in a different version, but Stacy didn't accept her loss against Michelle, and she tried to launch an attack again. Meanwhile, Oliver gained the upper hand in the fight against Cyrus, and he became angry because of his tricks. Then we see Michelle, and she showed her cousin that she lacks metal training. Cyrus tried to lure Oliver into a trap, but he predicted his move and kicked him in the stomach. He also cast a wind spell that brought him victory against Cyrus. Meanwhile, Stacy was still trying to win against Michelle, but she knocked the sword out of her hand. She cried, and Faye cheered her up. Then Michelle asked if Stacy hated her the whole time. Faye explained that it wasn't her fault, it was her family's fault, because Stacy wasn't acknowledged by her father. Nanao learned that Stacy is Michelle's biological sister, and she was sent to the secondary family. Additionally, Faye said that Stacy learned the truth when she turned 10, and since then she has had the goal of having her biological father accept her. So they learned about Stacy's circumstances, and Nanao tried to cheer her up. She explained that every person is unique and she was never a replacement for Michelle. Then we see Cyrus, and he told Oliver that he will tell them about his childhood. Following this, Cyrus told Oliver and his friends about a girl who played chess with him every day when he was a child. Emma always lost at chess to Cyrus, but she studied hard to win against him once in her life. So she got better at the game day by day, and one day she managed to win against Cyrus at chess. Cyrus congratulated her, and he was happy that Emma managed to beat him at chess. Then he told his parents that Emma had beaten him, and it was the most fun game he'd ever had. As a result, he was beaten for half a day, and he learned what it meant to be an Albright. Cyrus went to his room, and he decided never to lose again, because that day his best friend was killed because of his failure. Since then, he looked down on others, and went about his duties as a son of the Albright family. Cyrus activated a powerful spell and a mob of Pokémons appeared from the sky. He replied that he couldn't lose, and offered them to give up. Stacy wasn't a Pikachu, but she attacked a Beedrill with a Thunderbolt spell. As a result, the other bees became angry, and Katie found a place to protect herself from the monsters. Meanwhile, Faye tried to protect his girl, and Pete told them to run to them immediately. They managed to reach the barricade, but the bees surrounded them. Suddenly, Katie activated a magical item, but she said it won't last long. Oliver thought the option of giving up was the best solution. But Nanao said it was wrong because Cyrus had lost in the fight against Oliver. Oliver's friends were motivated to fight on his side, but he was afraid if they would fail. His friends were able to convince him to fight, and they decided to defeat Cyrus. Before the fight began, Michelle revealed her secret. Suddenly the bees were drawn to the barricade like a magnet. Cyrus was confused, and Guy said that the barricade won't last much longer. Meanwhile, Katie was surprised because Michelle showed her true magical powers. Shortly before, she told her friends that she was a half-elf. Back in the present, Katie was attacked by the Beedrills, but Marco protected Katie. Then Michelle activated her spell, and together they cast a powerful spell that killed many of the bees. Following this, Nanao started her counterattack against Cyrus. Nanao defeated many of his bees and he injured Cyrus. Then Nanau said that victory or defeat on the battlefield can only be determined by oneself, and Cyrus accepted her challenge. Following this, they began to finish the fight with a single attack, and Nanau won the duel. Cyrus lost the fight, and he remembered the joy when he was defeated by Emma. Meanwhile, Stacy understood that she had no chance against Michelle. Michelle replied that she never intended to harm her. Then she said that although she isn't allowed to call Stacy her sister, she is an important family member to her. Afterwards, Oliver told Cyrus that it was a good duel, and Cyrus was happy to have lost to Oliver. They became friends and went back to school together. On the way back, a magical beast appeared and planned to eat them. Cyrus tried to defeat him, but he was captured by the monster. Then more monsters appeared, and Oliver told everyone to run away. Unfortunately, Faye was captured while trying to protect Stacy. Pete stumbled while trying to escape, and Oliver tried to save him. Michelle stopped him because otherwise he would be caught too. A short time later, Oliver told Alvin that Pete was kidnapped in the third layer of the labyrinth. Oliver learned that Opilia might be consumed by her spell, and he remembered about her warning the last time. Then we see Opilia, and she planned to use the kidnapped people as test subjects. The Kimberly Student Council planned to rescue the kidnapped students. They planned to stop Opilia, and Alvin knew they had to act quickly. Before the Student Council entered the labyrinth, Carlos told Alvin to take care of everything in case something went wrong. Meanwhile, Guy was worried about Pete, and Michelle said that the upperclassmen were trying to save him. Guy was worried about Pete because several days had already passed. Then Nanau said that in her homeland, after missing on the battlefield, usually 8 out of 10 people would turn up dead. Oliver replied that she was far too pessimistic, and he believed that there was a reason why they were captured alive. Later, Oliver asked his brother if he could save Pete. He replied that he was joining the rescue team with Shannon, but it would be difficult to find the missing people. On the way back, he met Tullio, and he said that their tournament was called off. In addition, he said that he shouldn't come up with stupid thoughts that bring him to the grave. Katie asked Garland if he could save Pete, but he couldn't help her. The reason for this was that teachers are only allowed to intervene after 8 days. Meanwhile, Michelle told Oliver that she met her father in his office. She said that no one was helping them, and she planned to enter the labyrinth to save their friend. In addition, she was ashamed because she had let Pete down. She couldn't forgive herself if Pete died, and she planned to go back to the third layer of the labyrinth alone. Suddenly, Oliver replied that he would accompany her, and a familiar voice appeared. After that, Oliver learned that Katie wanted to sell herself to Vera to save Pete. She offered to let Vera examine her body, and Oliver stopped her. Then Oliver asked Vera what the chances that Pete is still alive. Vera replied that the kidnapped people had a 20% chance of survival. She also said that Opilia would kill the kidnapped people for the purpose of her research. Suddenly, Vera said that her research had hit a dead end, and she suggested a deal. Katie learned that Vera would like to learn more about her communication skills. So Vera asked Katie to join her research, and she would train the 3 of them. Katie accepted her deal, but Oliver didn't trust her. As a result, Vera told her intentions, and they accepted the deal. In the evening, Michelle entered Nanau's room. She already suspected their plan to save their friend Pete in the labyrinth. Suddenly, Katie apologized because she wasn't strong enough to accompany them, but Nanau cheered her up. In the meantime, Guy learned that he should stay at school, and he gave Oliver some magical items. He also baked bread for Pete so he wouldn't starve if they found him. Before entering the labyrinth, Vera gave Katie her pet Millihand, which served as a key to her research notes. Then Vera went ahead, and the others wished the rescue team good luck. This is how Oliver and his friends entered the labyrinth. Following this, we see Pete. He woke up in a strange place that smelled like fish. Pete remembered being kidnapped, and he heard footsteps walking in his direction. Opilia thought everyone was asleep, and Pete couldn't stand the fishy smell that Opilia caused. Later, Vera told Oliver and his friends about Ophilia's background story. She said that her species had tried for several generations to create a perfect life form, but their attempt failed. Then Vera said that she can give birth to synthetic beasts with her womb, but she needs a lot of mana to do so. Because of this, she kidnapped the students to steal their mana. Michelle was shocked that Opilia only requires males. Suddenly, Oliver also realized the problem, and Nanau told Vera that Pete is a Reversi. Vera suspected that if Opilia found out about Pete's status as a Reversi, he might be killed. Afterwards, we see Alvin, who fought a monster along the way. The student council split into 2 teams, and Tim was healed by Lasidi. They planned to move on and find Opilia to save the students. Then we see Alvin, and he met Kevin on the way. They learned that he had drawn a map of the third layer, so Kevin said he wanted to help them, and Carlos thanked him for his help. Afterwards, Kevin said goodbye and planned to find Ophelia's hiding place alone. Meanwhile, a chimera appeared in front of Oliver, and Vera said that they have to be careful in battle. Vera told them to watch her fight, and she cast a spell. The chimera was distracted, and Vera began running towards the monster. Following this, she attacked the chimera with a wind spell and explained to them how to defeat the monster. She told Oliver and his friends that they had to wait for the perfect moment. As a result, Vera was able to defeat Ophelia's chimera with ease. Then Vera said that they will encounter many strong chimeras in the third layer. Oliver was ready and said that they will save their friend Pete at any cost. After that, we see the past of Ophilia, who stomped on flowers because she was angry. Out of nowhere, Carlos showed up, and he said he just wanted to be her friend. But Ophilia thought that Carlos was sent by her family because of their attempt to make a perfect living form. He replied that he just wanted to talk to her, but she didn't believe him. The reason was that all men immediately go crazy because she was a succubi. However, Alvin learned about Ophelia's sad past, and Carlos wished that she could live a normal, happy life. Then we see Oliver's group, and Vera told them that they are in her favorite layer of the labyrinth. They followed Vera and set out to find Ophilia as quickly as possible. Following this, they crossed a river and they walked for several hours. Suddenly, Nanau stopped the group, and her stomach started growling because she was hungry. Oliver's group took a break and they ate Guy's homemade bread. Afterwards, Oliver sensed that Teresa was nearby and he said he was going to get water. Oliver went to a river and he learned that his siblings will soon arrive at the third layer. Additionally, she said that his siblings ordered her to bring Oliver back to school if she encountered him. Teresa got a crush on him and she said that she wouldn't snitch on him. However, Oliver trusted Teresa and she was grateful that Oliver was her master. A few hours later, they arrived at the giant tree Irminusul, and Vera warned them that many rare beasts live in the tree. Oliver wondered why a sun existed in an underground labyrinth. Vera explained to them that it was created by a highly advanced technology that no longer exists today. Following this, they passed many difficult paths, and Vera was surprised that they hardly encountered any magical beasts. A short time later, they arrived at a special place, and Vera said that they should stand behind her. Suddenly, a magical beast appeared, and Vera asked Nishino why he was angry. Following this, Vera tried to scare him away with her evil eye, but her attempt failed. She planned to fight Nishino, but Nanau stopped her. However, Nanau said that they didn't show enough respect, and she told the magical beast that they planned to save her friend. Following this, Nanau explained that she learned the trick from Katie, and Vera was impressed by Oliver and his friends. In the meantime, Stacy also arrived in the third layer, and one of the fourth years accompanied her. She planned to save Flay, and Lynette tried to explain to her that Ophelia's chimeras are very strong. However, Oliver's group was led through Nishino's territory. Suddenly, Nishino was killed by Mantis from Kung Fu Panda. Vera said it's time to show what they have learned, and Oliver began planting the seeds. He activated Guy's magic item, and was able to create an attack opportunity for his friends. So Oliver cast an explosion spell, and the chimera was enveloped in smoke. Nanau ran towards the giant mantis to hurt him. At that moment, the chimera activated his special ability, and Nanau barely managed to avoid its deadly attack. Then Oliver and Michelle began their attack to lure the enemy into their trap. Nanau managed to cut off one of the opponent's legs, and they realized that the monster could regenerate himself. However, they came up with a new plan, and Nanau was confident that they would win. Meanwhile, Vera was impressed by her combined attacks and strategy in battle. She knew that the most important part of the fight was now coming, and believed that they would win. Michelle and Nanau began attacking together. Then Oliver tried to end the fight with a final blow. They thought that Oliver was dead, but he was alive and ended the fight with a final attack. Then Vera told them that they will move on. On the way, they managed to defeat all of the monsters with ease. In the evening, Oliver couldn't sleep because he was worried about his friend Pete. Vera wanted to know why they were risking their lives, even though they hadn't known Pete for long. Oliver said that they became part of a group for the first time at the entrance ceremony, and Pete was the only one from a non-magical family. He said that Pete was probably the most scared, but he didn't run away like the other students. Vera understood the reason why they risked their lives for Pete, and she was curious about Oliver's strength. The reason for this was that she couldn't logically understand why Oliver became so talented. Oliver was asked about his past, and Vera understood that he didn't want to talk about it. We then see Pete trying to wake up Cyrus. He explained that they were in Ophelia's workshop. After this, Cyrus wondered why Pete was awake, and he found out Pete's secret, that he is a Reversi. Cyrus came up with a plan, and he planned to escape. Suddenly, he hurt himself, and he pulled out magic items from his stomach that could help them to find a way out. He entrusted the magic orbs to Pete, and he said to try to get help. He entrusted Pete with the magic orbs, and Cyrus told Pete to try calling for help outside. Following this, we learned that Opilia suffered from being a succubus. Her mother taught her that intercourse only serves to create better bloodlines. At that moment, Carlos cheered her up, and he decided to show her a better life. Meanwhile, Guy was worried because they had been in the labyrinth for 3 days, and Katie said that they will manage to save Pete. In addition, Katie said that no one can beat Oliver, and Guy said that the problem is Ophilia's perfume. Later, Oliver started acting strange towards Nanatsu. Michelle said that it was Ophilia's perfume, and he replied that he would try to keep control of his body. Meanwhile, Nanatsu became curious, and Vera tried to explain the effects of the perfume. After Oliver drank a medicine that counteracted the effects of Ophilia's perfume, they built a boat. Then Oliver used a spell to tell Teresa that he would go on alone. Oliver was getting ready to cross the river, and Vera was going to teach them to walk on water. Vera believed that the three of them were capable of mastering this difficult spell, and Nanatsu immediately sank into the river. Afterwards, Oliver tried to concentrate his mana on his feet, and he mastered the spell. He remembered when his mother showed him the spell, and she said that he will be able to use it one day. Oliver walked on water, and he wanted to help Nanatsu master the spell, so Nanatsu also walked on the water, and Michelle also tried to master the magic. Vera watched them, and she was impressed that she had immediately mastered walking on water. Then we see Lynette, who planned to fly over the lake. Stacy learned that the magic item doesn't work until the end of the shore, and she said that they have to be careful on the way. Meanwhile, Vera used a wind spell to move the boat, but Vera found it strange because they didn't encounter any magical beasts. Suddenly, they were attacked by an enemy, and Vera immediately stopped the boat. Drake learned that Opilia had kidnapped Oliver's friends. Suddenly, he said that Vera's group will die, and he threatened them. Michelle proposed a deal, and she suspected that Drake was planning to claim Ophilia's research results. Suddenly, a chimera of Opilia emerged from the water, attacking Drake's monster. Vera took the chance to sail on with the boat, and he left Drake to fight the magical beast. Later, Oliver explained to Nanatsu that when a person is consumed by a spell, someone will appear as the last visitor to witness their last moments. Carlos asked Alvin if he remembered the day he first met Opilia at school. Every student avoided Opilia because she was descended from a succubus. In the cafeteria, Carlos said that he wanted her to make friends at school. Carlos planned to introduce Alvin to her, and he tried not to lose control of his own body. Then he apologized for underestimating the power of her perfume. In the followed morning, Alvin tried to greet Opilia, but he lost the control of his body again. Unfortunately, it was more difficult than expected, but Alvin never gave up on making friends with her. 2 months passed, and Opilia was secretly happy that Alvin was trying to befriend with her. Then they met Alvin, and he smiled, because he managed to withstand the power of her perfume. He caused himself pain every day so he could talk to Opilia normally, and she worried about him. But he really wanted to be friends with Opilia, to see her smile. After that, he introduced her to other students so she wouldn't feel lonely anymore. Opilia was asked to join the student council team. Then she told them that she has the skills to make potions. In the days that followed, Alvin used a fire spell and he injured himself. Opilia healed him, and she said that she can heal him at any time. Since then, they got to know each other better, and Tim injured himself in the labyrinth. Opilia used her healing magic, and she became friends with the other members of the school council. Following this, Drake attacked other students in the labyrinth, and Alvin stopped him. Back in the present, Carlos said that Alvin has been able to help many students since that day. But Alvin wished he could do more because he blamed himself for Opilia being consumed by her spell. The reason he blamed himself was that many students wanted to join the school council, and Alvin always asked Opilia to help him choose new members. Unfortunately, some other students were jealous of Opilia and started bullying her. Suddenly, Opilia showed that she is not weak, and she punished the people who looked down on her. After that day, Opilia left the school council, and Tim wanted to know why she changed. Tim was worried that she was planning to harm Alvin, and they fought each other. A few hours later, Alvin found Tim, and he was disappointed in Opilia. Following this, we see Opilia, who had a nightmare because she missed Alvin. Meanwhile, Pete took the chance and tried to escape. Pete was immediately surrounded by chimeras, but he used a smoke orb. As a result, he managed to escape Ophilia's workshop, and he used his last strength to call with a magic orb for help. However, the school council team discovered Pete's signal, and they knew there wasn't much time left. Pete was desperate and he didn't want to die in that place. At the last moment, Oliver's group showed up, and he was happy to see them. Pete immediately started crying and Oliver hugged him. After this, Opilia appeared out of nowhere and she planned to kill Oliver's group. Oliver immediately protected Pete and she was surprised that Pete is a Reversi. She asked Vera what she was planning to do, and Vera asked if they could go. Unfortunately, Opilia has already been consumed by her spell and she told them that she is no longer a human. Opilia began to activate her spell, and Vera immediately started the fight. Unfortunately, Oliver and his friends were unable to stop Opilia, and her spell changed the environment as if it were an awakened devil fruit. Afterwards, the magic was completed, and Oliver was shocked to see a grand aria. He knew that Opilia had mastered her succubus spell perfectly, and she was in trouble. Vera was impressed that she completed the Salvadori magic at such a young age. Afterwards, Stacy showed up, and Vera explained to them that they were at Ophilia's womb. They learned that no one from outside can enter this place, and that chimeras are created permanently. Then they began to prepare for battle, and Vera started the battle with a wind spell. Lynette activated a barrier, and Oliver told Stacy about the plan. Then Vera and Michelle tried to defeat Opilia, but their attacks didn't work on her. Vera was surprised that her personality was still intact, and she asked what it was like to be consumed by a spell. Following this, she said that she doesn't blame her because her first love was an absolute mess. Vera said that she was out of Alvin's league, and Opilia got angry by hearing her words. Before she was attacked, Vera and Michelle cast powerful fire spells against her. Vera tried to get closer to the enemy, but she was stopped. Vera didn't give up, and she took her chance to use the Eye of Medusa. She thought that Opilia was petrified, but Vera was attacked and Opilia broke free of her spell. As a result, Vera was seriously injured, but she continued to make fun of Opilia. Opilia decided to attack them with her spell, and she said that none of them understand her. At that moment, Opilia remembered when her crush Alvin called her a villain and planned to fight her. She said she had no regrets. However, the chimeras were losing their will to fight, and Oliver told Nanau that they must use the chance to kill Opilia. Shortly after, Oliver's group began a plan to distract Opilia so Nanau could attack. He defeated the monsters with the others and Michelle supported him. Suddenly the chimeras began their counterattack against Oliver's group, but Oliver tried not to fall. He dodged all attacks, but a monster destroyed his broom. So he trusted Nanau to end the battle with a final blow and she flew towards Opilia. Before she could reach Ophilia's head, she saw a little girl crying and decided to stop her attack. She hesitated, and her attack failed. Following this, she apologized to Oliver, and she told Oliver that she is still a little child inside. Meanwhile, Michelle apologized to Pete for not being able to protect him, but Pete said she didn't have to apologize. Suddenly Opilia cried and she felt jealous because she wondered when was the last time she didn't feel lonely. She regretted that she was born, and remembered the good times with her friends. As the situation looked desperate, they heard a song. Then Alvin and Carlos arrived, who were the last visitors. Opilia was happy to see her crush Alvin and her best friend Carlos. Following this, Carlos tried to get closer to Opilia, but she knew that Carlos planned to die with her. Carlos said he will give her everything, and he used his family magic to dismantle the Grand Aria. However, Alvin explained to Oliver that Carlos is the last visitor who will save Opilia from loneliness. Opilia didn't want Carlos to disappear with her, and she remembered the day when Carlos promised to always be by her side. Then Carlos hugged her, and he said that he will love her forever. Carlos was able to fill the emptiness of Ophilia's heart, and Alvin said goodbye to his best friend. As a result, both disappeared, and Ophilia's spell collapsed. After this, Oliver's siblings showed up, and they were happy that he had survived. A few days later, they returned to the academy and they were able to rescue all the missing students. Oliver and his friends were happy to have survived the adventure, and they became even closer after this day. The students only talk about Ophilia's incident for a few days. The reason for this was that such cases are normal at Kimberly School. Then we see Oliver and his friends in their workshop, and they enjoyed their time together. Oliver knew that he would experience a lot at school, and in the end he met the teachers who murdered his mother. He had his goal clearly in mind, but he also tried to enjoy his time with his friends at school.